Welcome back to the Student of the Game podcast. Once again, thank you all for tuning in. Please hit that like and subscribe button. It's free of charge. All right, so today's edition of our 31 Nights of Horror, we're going to talk about the Stephen King movie, Children of the Corn. All right, if you haven't seen this movie, check this movie out. But this movie here, the premise of it is, hey, the children, they're not made of corn, but you know, led by a young teenager named Isaac, who's a young preacher. He somehow he convinces the other children that you know what? We don't need the adults. We don't need adults. You know what? For some strange reason, all the other kids, no matter how old they were, most of them, they agreed with him and they followed him. They followed his command, okay? Because of he who walks behind the rows. Not gonna lie, as a kid, every time they said that, that just creeped me out. That's when I was a little kid. When I became a teenager, that part didn't creep me out so much, but the whole idea of it, yeah, it's still pretty creepy. I understand that, but it tripped me out. I'm like, hold up. How in the world are these little children able to overpower these adults? And not just overpower, outthink all of these adults. How? How? Because I'm like, as a kid, hey, my only experience with parents are my own parents and uncles, aunties, and grandparents. All right. And me and my friends, we would trade stories about, how our parents are and grandparents are and uncles and aunties and stuff. And it's like, I don't know any of my friends who I came up with, no matter how old I was, where if we would have executed a plan like that, we would have been able to overpower and outthink the grown-ups. Now, see, we're talking about parents. We're talking about the grown-ups who have children or nieces and nephews. So that means, yeah, you run the risk of possibly getting sidetracked because you're spending time, you know, giving attention to children. But what about the adults who do not have children? You know what I'm saying? What about adults? You got some adults, they can't stand kids. You think they're going to just sit there and just let kids just take over the town, take over the city? Like, that's what I'm saying. There's too many variables right there. In addition to, I guess they had like a town local sheriff and a deputy or whatever, but I'm like, I never understood how they was able to dominate and just take over and wipe away all of the adults, right? And think about it, if you a kid, like, I know me as a child, I didn't always go float with where the majority went because I'm too patient for that and I'm too cautious for that. For better or for worse, that's me. But I'm like, and I get it. He had his number two. They all have their number two, right? In Zoolander, you have Doctor Evil and his number two. They always had a number two, all right? And Malachi, I get it. Malachi was pretty big, but the thing about it is, like, it's not like Malachi has the grown man's strength or even the old man's strength. Okay? And there's no knock on women. Hey, women are strong too. Have y'all seen those videos? Check after you finish watching this video, check out those videos where those women where they managed, they don't lift weights or anything like that. You wouldn't expect them to be as strong as they are. But guess what? Somebody they love trapped up under the car, they able to lift that car up. All right? That's fight or flight mentality. So you think that's not going to apply when you got a Malachi or whoever trying to just take over the whole town? Now I get it. They may get by default, they may get a couple grown-ups. They catch them slipping. But I mean, like, the grown-ups I came up with, they wasn't slipping like that. They wasn't slipping like that. So, but all of that set aside, this is a very entertaining movie. It's a real good movie. I really think y'all should check it out. Um, I've watched this movie like multiple times when I was in elementary school. Uh, I don't think my parents knew I watched it. Well, now they know, right? I came out just fine, right? But watched it as a teenager, young adult now, and it's like I still look at it with that same mindset. I don't understand how they took him over, and but I would say, you know what? Hey, if anything, I think what it is with this movie here is I think maybe that could be the end result when You have a society where they forget how to discipline their children, how to correct them, okay? Because nobody's beyond correction, all right? And then not just that, you got to pay attention to your children. You got to pay attention to these kids, okay? You got to pay attention to them. You got to pay attention to what they're learning. Even if when you have somebody their age, close to their age, teaching them something or going over things with them, you have to pay attention and monitor that and parent that and guide that to make sure there's a clear difference between right and wrong and good and evil. Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, in this movie, Isaac, what happened was he was forming his own little, he was over like the youth of the church. Because they was like, all right, let him do that and stuff. But then he just blew up and took it to a whole nother level. And that's one of those things, man, you gotta monitor that, man. So that way you can nip those things in the bud, man. But that's the thing with Stephen King, man. He his what makes his movies terrifying and his stories terrifying is that children aren't immune to harm in his movies. And that's close to real life, unfortunately. You know, we watch the movies like the Friday the 13th, the Michael Myers, the Freddy Cougars, a lot of these movies, and it's almost like they have a code. Those characters to where they don't mess with the little children. They don't. Freddy Krueger, he harms children, yes. He doesn't mess with the little ones. All right, but that still doesn't make it cool what any of them do. But I'm just saying, it's like as a kid, it made me feel like, okay, well, I'm 10 years old. Freddy Krueger, Jason, he's not gonna mess with me, you know. But you watch any Stephen King movie, oh man, you better keep your head on a swivel if you're a child in a Stephen King movie. But anyways, I like this movie. I really enjoy it. Linda Hamilton is in it. A lot of times I think about when I watch this movie, man, what if she was Sarah Connor in this movie? Oh man, like there were times in this movie I wish the inner Sarah, she would unleash the inner Sarah Connor out and just bring fire and brimstone to Isaac and Malachi and their little crew, man. Yeah, man, it's wild. It's wild, man. But it's an entertaining movie. It's a good movie, entertaining movie to watch during the month of Halloween and October. If you're down, if you're into horror movies, like hey, I'm into horror movies, and you wouldn't be listening to this episode of the podcast if you wasn't. But anyways, share your thoughts in the comment section below, and let me know what do you think about Children of the Corn, Student of the Game podcast.